A must-win. First up, Cowboys at Falcons. Brew, it's your upset alert pick, so we know you think the Cowboys are going to win. Let's take a look at the numbers. Dak agrees it's a literal must-win for him. Here's Dak and Kirk. Brew, as mentioned, this is your upset alert pick. This is a must-win for the Cowboys.
Dak really didn't give it the must-win.
You know what?
Because he said every game's a must-win.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I
Dak
know.
is just by the book in the press conference. He's going to say all the right things, all the cliches, and that's what he did.
It'd be weird if you're like, nah, we could lose this one.
That's true, too. He's got to say it's a must-win. But it is a must-win for the Cowboys. Mathematically, they'll still be alive, but they got a tough schedule. And as you know, as respectable as Atlanta is, when you look at the teams on their schedule, Dallas going forward, if they can't beat Atlanta, then you got Philly, who's playing well. Houston has been struggling, but, still a good team. Washington twice. I mean, look at that. The schedule, Cincinnati.
It's also a must-win because what do Detroit, San Francisco, and Atlanta all have in common? They're teams you anticipate are going to be playoff teams in the AFC. Teams that, if the Cowboys were to make the playoffs, they would have to probably play one of those teams in the first round, assuming they're not playing a divisional opponent in the first round. So, unequivocally, it's a must-win.
Yep.
I don't think the Cowboys are as bad as they've looked. Mm-hmm. However, you look bad enough, long enough, that just is who you are. And the defensive injuries do concern me. The Diggs all of a sudden popping up on the Jerry Jones injury report with the calf. Obviously, Bland has been out. Obviously, there's Micah, D-Law. So the Cowboys are allowing the second most points per game of any team in football thus far this year. So this is going to have to be a game that Dak cooks. Atlanta, listen, everyone but Pittsburgh has scored at least 20 on Atlanta. And Pittsburgh's week 1, they scored 18. Tampa and Seattle scored 30. So this should be a game where Dak can get going offensively. I think it's a must-win. I think it's a game, I agree with Brew, that they do win.
Okay. Ravens hosting
no points? No score?
I forgot. I keep on forgetting where I do the points.
It's must-win. But coach
It's not the same without coach. Coach is really competitive.
Yeah.
He really lifts his game.
Broncos at Ravens. Ravens favored by almost 10, trying to bounce back from last week's loss to the Browns. Here's a look at the Ravens' offense versus Denver's defense.
Wow.
Brew, is this a must-win for the Ravens?
Well, you showed it. It is strength on strength. I mean, the Ravens obviously have a great offense, but Denver's got a great defense this year.
Do they, though?
I think they do. I think they're like third. Well, you see it, points allowed per game. They're giving up, 15 points a game? I think it's... Tampa Bay stomped Tampa Bay when Tampa Bay was
But that's the only one.
Good one.
The other one is the Jets, Vegas, New Orleans, and Carolina.
But they stomped New Orleans. Again, if you play a tomato can, don't edge them. Don't struggle with them. Stomp them. And that's what they did. So I'm just saying they're legit. But, yeah, it's a must-win. Because as I said earlier, Baltimore has Cincinnati and Pittsburgh coming up. We know how tough the AFC North games are going to be. They may lose to a team that's inferior to them, as they did last week with Cleveland, just because of the in-division rivalry. And you're coming off a loss. All right, this could be they were just riding high a few weeks ago, maybe reading their press clippings, an old school, lingo. Maybe a little too much of that. So coming off a loss, I think they want to get right, and I think they do against Denver, but definitely a must-win.
You look like something you had a light bulb moment on.
I've been having a conversation with the audience, separate from the show.
What is it?
When you guys, every time you mention they've got Cincinnati coming up, I remind the audience, I go, Cincinnati's not good. Okay. I don't have to worry about Cincinnati.
Well, they only beat them by
Then the Ravens
3.
might not be good because they did play Cincinnati and it went to overtime.
Well, the Chiefs struggled with Cincinnati, too.
I think
Cincinnati plays up
Cincinnati's
to
good.
its
I'm not trying to argue about Cincinnati right now. Isn't Cincinnati in this segment? Can't we wait for your hot Cincinnati takes?
I didn't bring it up. I was whispering to the audience. Okay. You brought it up.
Baltimore has not earned the no way they lose this game benefit of the doubt this year. And if they lose this game, a lot of your anti-Cincinnati arguments will apply to this team. A lot of them. I know you think the Raiders are about to beat the Bengals. That's fine. But I think the Bengals are going to win that game. if one team's 4-5 and one team's 5-4, you're not going to be able to rest on the standings as a reason why one team's a legitimate contender and one team it's embarrassing to discuss them as a contender. Again, I don't think the Broncos are as good as their schedule, and I actually agree with you. Their defensive ranks say they have a top 4 defense in football. I think it's probably closer to 9 or 10. I think it's a good but not a great defense that hasn't had to play top flight quarterbacks. But I do not think that you can take the Ravens as a legitimate Super Bowl contender if they lose in the first half of the season to the Raiders, to the Browns, and to the Broncos. Flatly, I don't.
Fair take. Brew gets the points. Coach Mancini's upset. The Dolphins over the Bills, which would be shocking considering the Bills' recent dominance. Last 13 meetings, the Bills have won 12 of them and run up the score in the process. Now Tua is back. He hasn't had a tremendous amount of success against the Bills' defense.
I think he's 1-7, right?
Not great.
Yeah.
Must win?
Listen.
For Miami.
Yeah, I almost included the Dolphins +6 as one of my picks because I think they can win the game outright.
Okay.
Problem is this. I think there's 2 outcomes possible here. A Dolphins outright win or the Bills just smack them.
Exactly.
And I know we look at the first matchup as, oh, throw it out, Tua got hurt. Man, listen, Tua getting hurt was sad and scary. But
it's also over.
That game was the reason Tua did something he normally doesn't do, which is put himself in jeopardy, scramble, was because they were in such desperation because they couldn't move the ball. If the Dolphins don't win this game, the division race is over. Flatly over. They do win it, all of a sudden they have a split with Buffalo, and you start to try to be like, okay, we've stabilized. Buffalo then has 3 losses. You see if you can claw your way back in. If they lose, Brew, I think they have to have a real hard conversation about should we trade off some of our pieces. And so it's unequivocally a must-win for Miami and unseasonably warm this Sunday in Orchard Park. 58 degrees at kickoff is the projected temperature. That's actually a huge factor for the Dolphins for their annual game in Buffalo.
They still don't feel great in there, though.
They don't love it. They'll be a little chilly, but it's as good as you're hoping.
45 degrees is the mark. But you know what else isn't a good sign for them? They're playing a good team. I mean, I don't have the graphic. I didn't call it up. But what was Tua last year against good teams? 1-6 against playoff teams with winning records, whatever it was. No, this is a must-win for them just by virtue of their record being 2-5, all right? But also, Tua is back. That's great. We all love to see him back. They're 1-2 with Tua. And the one victory, Jacksonville, remember that?
Yeah.
They got lucky. They made a play, but Travis Etienne fumbled the ball. They punched it out.
Week 1.
Yeah, at the goal line. So that wasn't a great win. As you guys said,
last week, though, they felt like they got unlucky. They're up 10 late.
No, it was Arizona came back. They kind of controlled the game most of the way, Miami. But Arizona's not great. They're common.
Yeah.
And so are the Dolphins. The Bills are going to roll them.
Okay.
Trust me.
Coach's upset alert, so I have to go with Coach here.
All right, we'll see.
Coach gets the point.
Why?
Coach gets the point.
In absentia. Yeah, sorry. Check in on the Bengals, who are favored by a touchdown over the Raiders. This is my upset alert with Gardner going in getting the W. Haven't won at home this year. Nick, we'll start with you trying to get the points. Even Joe Burrow's saying it's a must-win, so it'd be weird to say it's not a must-win.
Yeah, obviously it's a must-win. The problem is they're going to win, and then on Monday, when we briefly discuss this game, you are going to act as if you did not pick the Raiders to beat them, and you're going to dismiss it as, oh, you beat the Raiders, so now you're a good team. No. It's 100% what's going to happen. That is absolutely what's
T. Higgins is hurt. What is he supposed to do?
No. If they lose,
should they trade for?
No. If they lose this game, I'll tell you this much: they would never do it. If they lose this game, they should trade T. Higgins.
That's true.
They should.
You know what I mean? Like you're 3-6, and he's leaving in the offseason. You could get a legitimate return for 9 games or 8 games for someone else having T. Higgins.
That's smart.
But they're not going to lose this game. I thought your point about Max Crosby against a banged-up offensive line was a good one. So I don't know that the Bengals are going to blow out the Raiders. I don't know they're even going to cover the spread. It's a must-win, and they're going to win.
It's a must-win, no question. Burrow mentioned it, the record. They're at home. Team morale, which already can't be high, would plummet, all right, into the abyss, all right? And it's not only a must-win for the Bengals, it's a must-win for Joe Burrow. Because the rumblings are getting louder and louder. I mentioned this. This is why he was on the bud list. I mean, how long you going to live? And he's good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a top quarterback. Mm-hmm. But at some point, start showing you're a top quarterback. You showed his numbers. I know over the season,
They're
15
great.
touchdowns, 3 picks. But the last few games, they haven't looked great. Without T. Higgins or one of T or Jamar, he has struggled. T. Higgins doubtful for this game. So Burrow needs to go out there and win just to remind people of who he is.
The thought. What are the rumblings?
The rumblings are that
what?
He's living off the one victory over Patrick Mahomes 3 years ago.
So what's Josh Allen living off of? The fact that he's
Josh
just good,
Allen
right?
is playing well.
Josh
Allen's team is 6-2.
Yes. And he's cut
Joe
down
Burrow's
his
team is 3-5.
They
haven't won a
got
home
one
game.
turnover all year.
Okay. All right.
He's living off of
I mean, that's the difference. We're looking at wins. Mahomes is living off wins. And he's earned it, obviously. But I'm just saying, this year, we kind of give him a pass for how poorly he's playing individually because they're winning. Nick, we don't praise quarterbacks with big numbers, but that don't win games.
Okay. There's rumblings. He's not
I
saying
just
it's a
don't
fact.
I
He's saying it's a
understand.
rumble.
I get shouldn't be getting praise for this season. I get that. But it seemed like you were implying there's rumblings he's overrated. That he's not clearly one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football.
Well, he better start winning.
I think that's okay because it used to be like clearly top 3. And now it's starting to move around a little.
I do think he's a very good quarterback.
Top 5 is
but
fine.
I'm just saying.
You're fine with top 5?
But he used to be top 3.
I mean, I
top
still think
2.
he's top 2. But
Top 2.
yeah, I think it's Mahomes Burrow.
Oh, this is
Mahomes
that's
Burrow.
why there's
because of
rumbling.
that one game.
No, because then the next year he was
Last year
an
he
MVP
didn't look
caliber
great.
player. Last
In
year
the 10 games he played, he
Okay.
looked good late.
Go ahead.
Not good early.
And this year he's looked great. He's looked great.
They were he's played fine.
Bears Cardinals must win.
For who?
Chicago Bears?
Yes, and they're going to win. I know we don't have a lot of time, so let's go quickly. Yes, it's a must-win. It's a fork-in-the-road moment of their season. And I also, Caleb, unfortunately, and we didn't talk about it on the show, and I'm glad we didn't, but his dad sent out an odd tweet I didn't love about Washington, like being a well-coached team. Like,
Was it a tweet? Didn't he retweet it? Because
No, that's his. The weird account is his. It's his.
Oh, I thought he retweeted a different.
Okay.
I don't follow I put no stock into the family members.
That's what I'm
as
saying.
My
Me neither.
Proxy.
Me neither. But if they
family.
lose and it goes poorly, fork in the road moment, they're gonna win. Caleb's gonna have a big game.
Okay.
Yeah, must win because of the division they play in. NFC North we know is a beast. Their next 2 games are must wins. This game against Arizona, next week against your Patriots, because then it gets real.
Must win for Kyler. I got a Heisman Trophy.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.